meeting.
Yes, thank you. All right, we're going to move out of executive session now. We'll take a motion to do so.
So moved. Second.
Okay, we'll do a roll call vote. Fenwick?
Yes.
Brandolini, yes. Lindblom?
Yes.
Barkowski?
Yes.
All righty, fantastic. And we will start here in public session with public comment. Seeing no one in person, and we'll check virtually here. Seeing no hands raised. Excellent. Okay, we will move forward then with our student reports. All right.
Yep. Hello, everyone.
It's on. You're good.
Hello, everyone. Just again, as we've done every week, sharing a little bit of updates about Scituate High School. The fall team sports have started to have their senior night games this past week, and we wish luck to all of our seniors as they celebrate their final season at SHS.
Thanks, Jonah. And then another update this week is Homecoming Spirit Week. So today was Boston Sports Day. Tomorrow is Surfers vs. Bikers. Wednesday is Pink Out. Thursday is Sailor Pride. And Friday is Country vs. Country Club. Another update is that the administrative team held a coffee with caregivers on Wednesday, October 9th. And school improvements in school culture were discussed. And last week, current high school seniors with 2 or more years of research experience in their community were recognized at the Stellwagen Bank National Marine Sanctuary. Amelia DeCosmo, Jane Ryan, Tommy Guinan, Noah Shepard represented Scituate High School. And it was a great event put on by Stellwagen and Noah. Another update is that the Unified Basketball game had their first home game against Plymouth North on Thursday, and this was a great event. There was an incredible turnout by staff and students, and they have an upcoming game on Wednesday in Duxbury. I spoke to a student from the team today, and they said that being able to be on a team sport has been awesome, and they love shooting hoops. Another update is that Scituate High School has earned a place in the AP School Honor Roll for the 2023-24 school year. On behalf of everyone in the AP community, all the teachers, congratulations to you. The AP School Honor Roll recognizes schools that have done outstanding work to welcome more students into AP courses and support them on the path to college success.
Thank you, Jane. And then moving on to guidance news, we have, again, continued with our college representation visits, and we continue to have consistent and meaningful turnouts at these events. Reminder, the PSATs at SHS during the school day on the 29th for sophomores and 30th for seniors. So, everybody show up that day. Make sure you study hard and sleep well. On Thursday, our student counseling and our MECO program sent a group of 10th through 12th grade students to the Historically Black College and Community Universities College Fair at the Renee Center in Boston, and had a wonderful time there. And counselors are working with college-bound seasons as of last week. 66 seniors have submitted a total of 388 college applications to 129 different colleges. And this is all before the November 1st deadline.
Excellent.
And then again, we have some more survey results to share. We have also are sending out tonight a survey towards the middle schoolers, as you talked about earlier, and then working to get some done for the elementary school students as well. And hopefully we'll have some of those to share with you in 2 weeks. For what students have told us about what they like about Scituate High School, I like the opportunity Scituate High School provides. I feel like specifically this year, there have been a plethora of extracurricular opportunities to travel and expand beyond our school. In my case, I'm going to Switzerland with Model UN, thank you, which is an opportunity I would not have without Scituate High School.
Another one that stood out, I really like the amount of unique classes and clubs that Scituate High School offers. I think we have a great school spirit, and I like the input students have on school policy. Please share any positive changes that we could make at Scituate High School. One student wrote, educating the incoming freshmen on the pathway program instead of telling us when we're upperclassmen, so it's easier to schedule. If you guys don't know the pathway program, that we have a business pathway, a environmental stewardship pathway, and a global citizen pathway. And there's certain requirements that the classes you have to take to obtain these pathways upon graduation. So I think that's a good idea to kind of spread the word about that as students come into high school and even middle school maybe.
And then another response. I think that students, especially underclassmen, should be provided with opportunities to join outside of school, such as during the summer. I think it would be great if the guidance department would prepare a list of places to research, volunteer, or work during the summer in order to get kids more involved in the community. I have loved being a part of Cohasset Center for Student Coastal Research during the summers, and I think lots of SHS students would benefit from hearing more about it. One of my goals for my senior year is to help underclassmen find volunteer, research, internship, or work experiences that will help them figure and find out things they are interested in. And then on the last note, we asked people to share one activity we could do to improve school culture. And one response says, I think getting the podcast or TV show back up again would be a great way to improve school culture.
And then another response was, an activity to improve school culture could be more events to connect students and teachers/guidance counselors and build stronger student-faculty relationships. I think specifically with guidance counselors, it would benefit so many students are able to get to know their counselor better. And that's all we have for you tonight. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Any questions, anyone? No? Thank you very much. That was really informative and definitely gives us things to think about.
Yeah, thank you. That
Yeah,
we
we're
really
happy to be
like
here.
hearing the
Yeah, it's really
comments
great.
from students and the ideas too. Those are really helpful. So thank you.
All right. See, we have a donation that Mr. Newton is going to present, and I'm going to ask you to unmute here. Okay. Should be all set there, Patrick.
Hi, thanks for letting me join virtually.
Of course.
I don't seem to be able to get on video, but that's probably just as well, given the way I'm feeling at the moment.
No problem.
I was all set to shout out Jane for her presentation at NOAA the other day, and then she shouted herself out in third person. That was great.
It's awkward for you. Huh? You're gonna shout yourself out.
Thank you.
So I am here to give a thank you and to ask for the acceptance of a gift in the value of $858 from the Michelle E. Dufaux Foundation. This is becoming a little bit of an annual tradition where I come to ask for an acceptance of a gift from the foundation. I like to remind folks at this time that Michelle was a very young Scituate resident, was a Yale student when she passed away tragically in an accident in 2011. And in her name, her family has continued this foundation to support STEM education. And so this year we have asked them to support our purchase of, and they have agreed to support our purchase of, a microplastics testing kit that we can use predominantly in 7th grade at Gates, where we align with standards of human impact on the ecosystem, and being the coastal community that we are, it seems like a great spot for us to increase student awareness and to get them some really exciting practice with some real world data and coming up with some potential solutions to a real world problem.
Great, thank you. That's very generous of them to offer this to us. Like you said, multiple years here. So we'll take a motion on that gift from one of my lovely colleagues.
All right, I will make a motion to approve the donation from the Michelle Dufaux Foundation.
A second?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you so much.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay. Yeah, you feel better, Patrick. All right, up next on our agenda here is our leadership report, Superintendent Burkett.
Thank you and good evening, everyone. I'm going to try to share my screen if I can. Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'm excited to share the superintendent's goals for 2 years for our community and guests this evening. Just to add some context here, the school committee has approved that I move to 2-year goals. Being after my 3rd year as superintendent, the state allows that. I think it's really been an exciting opportunity, so I want to thank the committee for allowing that. I think the quandary we often had was with 1-year goals, you get them out in September, October, then you have to give feedback in May, and so you're missing 3 good months, 30% of the year pretty much. So this 2-year goal allows us to go 2 years, but also has a formative model, which I'll show in a little bit, that still allows for a yearly check-in, but allows for a pause and feedback from the committee, us to offer where we're at, and some flexibility and adjustments in the 2nd year of the goal. So it's a really good process, and I'm excited about it. And so without further ado, I'll get into it. So that's why you'll see the 2024 to 26 mentioned here. Okay, so just the alignment of goals. The goals are driven by a very strong strategic plan that we have, and that we created about 2 years ago through community forums, surveys, a very involved, diverse group of individuals from the community, staff, school committee. And so great process to get everyone involved. We're in year 2. It goes from 2023 to 2028. And unlike some strategic plans that I've seen in the past that are very robust in a big binder, often sit in somebody's shelf, collect dust, this one's a lot more nimble. It's a lot more specific. It really reflects who Scituate is. We asked the question right from the beginning, what is excellence and what is unique to Scituate? And I think the answers we got are reflected in the strategic plan. So this year, what I think you'll see more of in my purposeful goal within the goals is to really reflect back to that, show where we are making gains in the strategic plan, because it's my belief that if we, and I think everyone that had part in creating it, that in 2028, if we can achieve all of our aspirations and goals in that plan, we'll be a very successful school district. And so that's the guiding light there. And then under that, these school improvement plans, which I'll talk a little bit about tonight in more specificity. And then the school committee goals, which we'll talk about at the next meeting, and then the superintendent goals. So you see everything is interconnected. And if you wanted to go down even under the superintendent goals, there's then principals goals, which are tied into the district goals and my goals, and then the teachers goals. So all the oars are in the water, going in the right direction, which was exciting about this year as well for me. I said I tried a new strategy where instead of, gathering all these information and self-assessment and coming up with the goals, really spent a lot of time through the summer work with our leadership teams of actually doing the district goal work first, and then the superintendent goals after. And using a graphic organizer, which committee members were nice enough to direct me towards. I appreciate that. Really helpful. And so, lastly, just to give a little bit of background, a lot of these goals you'll see are things that we're working on and that we want to do really well. I think in the past, some of the goals that I've had have been a little lofty, but really not directly connected to the strategic plan specifically into the work we're doing. So I think you'll see that better articulated in tonight's presentation. And community members, if you have any questions during the presentation, please just let me know and I'll pause and try to pause after each slide as well. Obviously time at the end, but certainly we're not going to wait to the end. So since we're talking about the strategic plan, I thought it was important for our community members and our guests to kind of get, this is one of our, one plan on a page, which I think does a really good job. It starts with our mission, which I think is the focal point. Together, we is capitalized on purpose because we really felt unique to Scituate that we want to all be in this together, all have a voice, and all play a role in it. Inspire is kind of our overarching theme this year, that we inspire. It's a great thing to do, and anyone can do it. We want all of our school community inspiring others because we believe it's contagious. To also support and challenge And the other word I like here now is all learners. And when we shared our MCAS results last meeting, we weren't getting that done for all our learners. And we broke those out. And the good news is we found out what learners we weren't successful with. So I think that's important to achieve this mission and strategic plan. We're going to very specifically and purposely look at all of our learners. And I'll share some of that in the goals this evening, and to reach their unique potential. And that's the fun part, where every child is unique. Every child has unique aspirations and goals, and we want them all to reach those when they leave here in high school or at age 22. Our vision, that's your North Star. That's set sail, dream, explore, and discover. You can feel the Scituate in that, I hope. So that came out very clearly, and that means different things to different people, and we like that. And so that's kind of open-ended and what that can mean, but very to the point. And our core values are how we conduct ourselves and engage with others. This is who we are. And I'm just going to briefly go over these because they all are reflected in the goals as well, because they're all in the strategic plan. Ensuring equity. The next one is nurturing perseverance, growth, and achievement. Valuing love, inclusion, and trust. Investing in safety and engaging with the community. So now we dig down a little bit deeper, and these are reflected in more detail in the strategic objectives when you read the plan. And we've broken that into 3 bite-sized pieces that are very important: teaching, learning, leading, communication and community partnerships, and then finance, facilities, personnel, and technology. So we'll break those out a little further as we go through. Part of the strategic plan is the theory of action. So I wanted to also share this. It's kind of an if-then statement, kind of like if we do all these things and what happens, and you typically reach your mission if you get this done. So if we nurture a safe, supportive, inclusive, and collaborative learning environment, provide children with an engaging and rigorous curriculum with exemplary instructional practices that support and challenge students to reach their full potential through personalized learning opportunities, and engage the community in effective two-way communication in order to support the student learning, then each Scituate student will develop the necessary social, emotional, academic, and career goals to be a productive citizen in an ever-changing world. And I'd like to add to that, then they would also be inspired, supported, and challenged to reach their unique potential, which is our mission. So I think it all circles back to the mission ultimately. So that's all the summary kind of the first page I showed you in if-then statement in our theory of action that we're very committed to. And again, you'll see some of these words repeated throughout the goals this evening so we can realize them. So just for our audience here to see how this all works, how do we put this document to use and to action? And on the left is the district level that we're speaking of tonight. And that's the strategic plan, which I spoke of, through the strategic objectives. Then we get into the initiatives. I also wanted to put up there that's very important is resource allocation, because we have budget season coming up, and we'll be talking about those resources, and all those resources should direct back to our strategic plan and our goals, and to feed into that as well. So the budget's a reflection of what you value. And then professional development. Something that we haven't had on there in the past. We've done a good job of it, but we really haven't communicated that well to our community. We want to do that better. So because it is purposeful, it is meaningful, and many people have a voice in it. I think we do it pretty well, but it's something also we want to improve on. So that's a district level, but also transfers over to teacher leaders have roles in that planning as well. And then from a district, how do we transfer it over to the school? I mentioned this earlier, school improvement plans. Again, something we're committed to improving and doing very well this year and moving forward, because those are basically the action steps that we're taking at the school-based level to move these goals forward for student learning. So you see your goals will be in the school improvement plans, outcomes, and action steps. So it should be very clear on those, what we want to achieve. And again, like a big circle, it'll circle back to the strategic plan, and the goals should be aligned with the district goals, and will be. Here's just a little summary of something I touched upon initially on the 2-year goal process, so folks can see what that looks like. And so it's kind of like a year-round process, similar to the budget. constantly talking and thinking about goals for current year, but also looking ahead on to how to build on those goals and to be successful. So year one, looking at, I get evaluated by the school committee. I have a rubrics just like our teachers and our principals. We all have that. So I try to live that to the fullest and get feedback on that. We use data about student learning to achieve those goals. We also look at past progress from the prior year's evaluation by the school committee. So what went well, what areas of growth. And that's not just in the evaluation, I want to point out. That's all the time. And I liked how the kids used it tonight. They heard loud and clear that, we'd like to see and hear we like the surveys, and we all also want to hear things from our students. So I think they did a really good job of taking that feedback and using it. We'll try to do the same. Input from the administrative leadership team, and certainly staff feedback and other relevant evidence, which would be like community feedback, anecdotal things, how are things working or not, our own self-assessment. So that's ongoing all year round. And then the goal setting year starts based on that self-assessment. I'll give some examples in that tonight of the feedback I received from the committee, from the staff, and from the community as I talk about this year's goals. So I'll try to incorporate that as we go along. The three areas that the goals are structured on are student learning goals. What do we want what's the end game? This is why we're here. What do we want all of our students to get in a high quality education? Professional practice goal is more personal to the individual, in this case, the superintendent. How do I want to grow and lead as the lead instructional leader of the district, and want to model that for everybody because I'm still learning. And then district improvement goal. What's the big picture at the district level that we want to accomplish too? And you'll see something unique this year from last year. We've got the formative evaluation in year one. So those folks saying, okay, what's a 2-year look like? We don't wait 2 years to find out how we're doing. In May or June, there'll be an evaluation of me like there is every year, but it'll be on a midway check-in. Like I stated earlier, a lot of pros of that. Our feedback earlier, the ability to be flexible and to change things and learn from areas of growth, to take input and feedback, to share where we're at. And so the community knows where we're going to, and then we move on and we can adjust what we're doing to achieve those goals. The superintendent is evaluated on 4 matrix: the instructional leadership, management and operations, family and community engagement, and professional culture. And those are all online. If anybody wants to just Google them, you can see that rubric. I'd be happy to send it to folks that are interested in looking at it. So here's the first goal, and it's a student learning goal. And a lot of this is from our, right from our strategic plan. If some of these words look familiar. Provide engaging and rigorous curriculum and deliver high quality instruction to meet academic needs of each learner. Notice we didn't put learners there, it's going to be each learner, so it raises the bar a little bit. So that's a lot of words that folks that aren't in education might not understand, or even those that are. But what does that mean? And what I try to do here is just break it out, and so that anybody that's in our community that's not in education could hopefully pick this document up and just understand it. Say, okay, I clearly understand it, and our students too. How do we know that we're achieving this? What will we do? So that's the how will we do it. Before I get to that, I just want folks to look at the right, the focus indicators. Well, what are those? I mentioned the rubric I'll be evaluated on. It's got multiple categories within, just like the teacher rubric, and frustration for us sometimes that there's so many that you possibly can't get to them all. And it's like, you want to be really good at some things, and I need to be achieve them all. Tend to do that, but where do you really want to focus? Where do you want to focus this year based on your strategic plan and what you need to get done? So those are those on the right, just for folks that are watching on it for our committee. Standard 1, this particular goal hits on Standard 1, instructional leadership, on instruction and assessment, also on management and operations. Standard 2, on the environment and human resources management, overlap a little bit in there. So how will we know we're delivering high quality instruction for our kids and for every learner? We're going to continue this systemic student support, Success 3 Academy. In our second year with that, it's been highly successful with really good feedback and results. It was piloted, if you recall, at Gates last year, and I think Principal Beatty did a nice job of updating where that was working well. And it's typically a 3-year process to get all done. So we moved from piloting one grade, one team in the middle school to now the entire middle school this year, and a group at Jenkins Elementary, with the ultimate goal in 2 or 3 years to have all schools in this. If you recall, the multi-tiered system of supports, the MTSS, which is meeting all learners where they're at. It's back to that unique each learner system. It's processes and systems that are consistent, and a great way to operate schools, that all of our schools will have that, and it is a big part of our strategic plan. It's all over our strategic plan. So we're really committing to that, those philosophies and practices. And these could be, in my next slide, I'll get just a little bit about what the outcomes are and what some of the products will look like. So the next one is ensure a coherent system for screening and monitoring student social emotional support and progress through the partnerships and education and alliance. Resilience, for those folks familiar with the district. Peer is something you'll hear. It goes home with families. And what we didn't want to leave out, because you're going to hear in MTSS the whole child, and that's why I think MCAS is, we keep saying is one way to monitor it. But I'm proud of the fact here in Scituate that we look at all aspects of a child, social emotional being a very, very important one. And that's one data point that we use. We have social emotional teams at each building, and we have a district team that looks at that feedback, looks at individual students, and monitors that. And I just want to share a little bit that I wrote down, because we've expanded this quite a bit. So it's a holistic student assessment. It provides valuable insight into our students' social emotional development. And over the years, the HSS has become an essential screening tool for our district. In grades 3 through 8 now, there is a HSS screening or check-ins in the fall and the spring. There were less grades and there was only one check-in per year. Didn't make a lot of sense to just do one check-in because you really had nothing to compare it to. So now we've done pre and post for those grades, which is considerably expanded, and have more information on kids about their social emotional health. There's now also HS screening in October and in the spring and mid-May. So we're looking at possibly a third assessment for them. The HSA at the high school is expanding to grade 12 this year. So that's new. In prior years, we wrapped it up in grade 10. So we want to know where our kids are at, 11th and 12th grade, heading off into post-secondary endeavors. I think that's important. And as we move forward, the HSA data will be even further optimized. It's being incorporated into the MTSS whole child review process. We have a variety of leadership teams that Assistant Superintendent Lynch oversees, and that's something unique to our district, I think, that we're very proud of, where our instructional leaders and teachers join groups they're passionate about. And this is one of them. The LIC committee is another one, professional development committee. So there's multiple ones that we have. So this group is starting to morph with the MTSS group, start to have overlap and to start talking the same language. So I think that's something, again, we're proud of, and I'll share where we go with that. But I did want to share with how we are expanding there, but also doing it slow enough where we're confident in what information we're gathering before we expand that to multiple grades. Next one.
Sorry.
Sure.
Okay, so 3rd through 12th grade.
Correct.
Is currently being monitored.
Yep.
Or assessed.
You said it much more succinctly than I did.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Being assessed for social emotional.
When was the last time we did I know we get reports on
Right.
pair. When was the last time we did a longitudinal? I mean, I know it's not the same, but I know we do pair. I know people are paying close attention.
Mhm.
I have to say, if I'm out in the community, that's one area of measurement I don't feel like I have a good sense of. And so I just feel like we need more about it if possible.
And I think that's great feedback. And this is the first time it's specifically been on the district goals. So
Yeah.
now that's and I know Mr. Ranieri and others come to
Mhm.
report on that.
Yeah,
But I think this is the opportunity to have some longitudinal study and more,
yeah.
you know, granular look at the district-wide stuff. So I
Yeah.
anticipate doing that as part of the evidence.
Yeah, I think just like the conversations we've had about, we have these longer term goals for MCAS and year-end things and doing a better job of connecting the dots to that. I think it would be helpful to see, we knew our students were here in pair, and then like, here's the path we're taking to get to here. That feels like it's missing for me. Maybe it's just me.
No,
I
I've
don't
heard
know.
that,
Okay, you did.
Something similar, yeah, I was
Okay.
saying, how do we bring it all together?
Yeah.
Like,
Just
I would
the story,
agree.
the whole
awesome,
story.
it feels like the communication thing, there's so many fantastic things, how do we then, in my head, I'm almost like picturing if I was having a meeting as a parent, I would see almost like, this is the profile of your student that we see in all these different areas, and
Yeah.
that's how we can sort of talk about supporting them to hit their unique learning potentials.
I think Dr. Koski said,
Yeah.
my goal at this midterm, what I'm excited about, is to tell the story.
Yeah,
Tell
Right.
this in a story and give some examples and show that. I think that, we've got so much information there, but I think that's all we've been doing is giving information without
Right.
telling the story behind it so people can hear it and say, oh, okay, that's why that's important. That's what's working. This is what might not be working. This is, so absolutely that's the intended outcome for that.
Carrie, just a clarifying question though, were you asking more about sort of to give the community more information on sort of what pair is, more of like
I mean,
once over on pair? and
I mean,
sort
I
of
think it's always
all
a
that.
good reminder to get that because we have new parents
Right.
and families coming into
Yeah,
the district. I
yeah.
mean, I know Mr. Ranieri has been here and like he's on it. Like I don't doubt that folks are paying attention.
Totally.
I
No, I agree with that though. I think
just-
that might be a nice refresher
Yeah,
for some and new information for others.
Yeah.
He has done it a couple times. A long time ago, he did a really, I'm like,
Yeah. I
maybe
just
when
feel like
first
this
was on
is
school committee,
this
like
is
6
where
years ago.
like even Mr. Adams' work could like overlap and
Yeah,
so
exactly.
and even
That's what I'm saying. How do we
we
bring it all
just
together?
talked to
Yeah.
Marcavius about our Boston families, like are we sort of
Mhm.
looking at those different areas in the way we look at MCAS? I don't know.
Right.
Are we slicing and
Yeah.
looking at the data that way so we're really offering support?
Yeah, so I would love
That's
if
all.
Greg could do a
Yeah.
kind of a
He does.
one-on-one for us again.
Well, I'm sure he will. He's always like Mr. Energy.
You can give him his 2 hours if you want.
At the tele, he gets 30
I
minutes.
gave him 10 minutes and
Yeah.
it took 40.
Yeah, I know. Or you
I
can
mean,
come
I'd be
home.
happy with 30. I think it's important
it's
enough
all
that it
important.
needs
Or we
that.
we'll just give him the hook.
As long as you don't have
It's
a
too
lot.
short, as long as you don't have a lot. on the agenda.
Yeah. Anyway,
Thank you. No, we can certainly do that.
Yeah.
Okay, the next one is the implement our new math program in grades 6 through 12, including providing PD for staff and developing an aligned curriculum. So I took some notes tonight I want to share too, because I know math's been a conversation that we've had. I wanted to do better than just say, do the teachers more justice than just saying we're going to put a new curriculum in, because that doesn't mean it's going to be student learning. It's not directly correlated to student learning, buying new stuff.
Yeah.
So I think we've got some plans for this year and they're pretty aggressive and I'm excited for them. So professional development is important. So we give this stuff out and even, we want to make sure that teachers are comfortable with it, they're passionate about it, they get feedback and they're all on the same page. Because I think that's some of the things we're lacking in a lot of our curriculum areas and that we've been fixing with our plan to focus on a department every year. And so with math coming up, a lot of teachers were left with either older outdated textbooks, different textbooks, doing their own thing. There wasn't a lot of necessarily consistency and things like that. So this will help with that. So both on November 5th and March 18th on our PD days, teachers in our math program department will be trained in the activation and the implementation of the math curriculum through professional development provided by Sabas.
Yeah.
Sabas. Yeah. And then our internal goals by June of 2026, the end of this goal period, teachers will be able to work together to create both vertical and horizontal scope and sequence in Atlas Rubicon, our online version. So we don't have that now. So that's huge. So that's working together. You can fill in any blanks when I'm done, Ryan, but that's a really big, important piece of this that we don't have that we're committed to. Also by June of 26, teachers will utilize the supplemental resources that we we have now in order to differentiate instruction and provide equitable access to a rigorous math education for all students. Okay, again, so we're limited there, and this is to do that. We want to be accountable for it. So that's kind of the internal goals of our math department. And with that, I think we can achieve improvements that you'll see with our MCAS scores, our internal math scores, in just success in math, and also that passion for math that I know, Mr. B has talked about, changing the mindset that math is fun, math can be cool. So, did I miss anything with that?
No, I think you summarized it well.
Okay. So again, upcoming school committee meetings, each department will be coming up and speaking to, so we'll get into some of these more details in all of our departments, but looking forward to that as well. So that's a big piece. Then again, something we're excited about that's new, that was from an example of feedback from the committee, was to implement a data review process where we review interim data on our benchmarks, marks, and assessments. We're not always waiting for, MCAS in October of the next year when the kids are a grade later and we're in school and we're in the hustle bustle. We've got a lot of good tools that we use here. I think we all agreed and stated that we're well resourced here in Scituate. We really want to work smarter on using those resources. So what we hadn't had, and I want to give credit to Assistant Superintendent Lynch for coming up with this idea, because we got the feedback and we said, well, how do we do this? Because I've been in districts where it got overwhelmed, where all it was data and you just didn't do anything else. And so we're going to start this off with a mid-year team, like our other teams, that get passionate people together, the group of, get teachers involved and get administrators all together at a table and just look at what we have. The Dibbles, the Star, the middle school, the new we get the Excel, but for last year, the new Lexile, that's the word. The new Lexile data and the social emotional stuff. And let's all get together and start, kind of like you said, what's our story? What's it telling us? What are we doing about it? That was kind of the three things the school committee challenged us on before was, where are we strong? What's going well? What's not? Let's be honest. And what are we doing about it? On both. What are we doing to keep strong? Because we don't want to forget that. What do we need to grow on mid-year, not next October, and then start diving down into the schools and having this done. And I'll get to this a little bit later, but one area that we could really attack and improve on was one of the goals here is the win block. And then now take this information that we have and say, okay, how can we apply that to the win block to individual students? So putting that all together in an organized manner and then checking in with the school committee midway instead of you all waiting until next October for MCAS results. We feel that the information we have with the software we have and the testing we do is a pretty good indicator of MCAS scores. So we want to share that with you, get your feedback. And so I think that model will be very helpful in a lot of ways. It won't be overwhelming, but it will be important. And then just best practices. We've started doing that a lot already in our meetings. Really started reviewing our meeting time and how we're using it. And so that it's even at the central office level, that it's not for information anymore. We can do that in an email. Anything you can do in an email you shouldn't be meeting about. So we're really looking at professional development, collaboration, but sharing best practices. So for example, we have 4 elementary schools. You've heard them talk recently. If someone's knocking it out of the park on their win block, okay, well, what are you doing that we're not doing? How can we do that everywhere? How can we make that happen? So that's what we haven't done. So that's why there's been a little disconnect, little inconsistency. I take ownership in that, but I'm also excited to, again, you'll see that a little bit later, but I wanted to show you how all these things are, with the help of the strategic plan, very much attached and connected, and there's a rationale for everything we do. So that's what that interim data benchmarking kind of meetings will be about, with the right people at the table and then getting that information out in a very specific way to our teachers to help support kids and to improve our best practices with our principals, with our central office, with our teachers, support staff, and start getting some consistency in those things that are really working well in all of our schools. So that's the goal with that. Then the last one would be second last one, share, celebrate, and identify focus areas of the Scituate Public Schools equity audit with the entire SPS staff, and got them right here because I made a mistake of not listing them explicitly in here, but I just want to remind folks that number one, 3 recommendations when we did the equity audit in 22-23. Number one was embedded equity actions and goals in the strategic plan, which I think we've done a good job of. They're in there. That's part A. Then equity aligned professional learning plan. So we're not there yet. So how does that strategic plan, when we use the word inclusivity, equity, how do we bring that to life in our schools? Again, we're doing some of it, but we want to be more purposeful and strategic in it and be able to share it. And then the last one is data-driven systems and strategies for human resources, which I'll touch upon a little bit in here, which we do have a goal for that this year as well. So we want to make sure we hit on all 3 of these this year. And the first part of that, because it's been 2 years, we've gotten a lot of new staff, and we really didn't do this in the first place, which we probably should have. But we didn't get to it for a reason, but that's okay. So we've got a great team. One of the teams I've talked about is the LID team. It's a group of teachers, administrators, central office folks. That's their passion. They're looking at. So they've dissected this equity audit for a long time. They're excited. They have a plan. So what we need to do next is make sure, because I think that's the biggest feedback we got was, well, we heard the 3 priorities, but we never kind of really dove deep into the plan itself and the numbers behind it and why we got this and why we got that. So that's our goal for this year is to get professional development to all staffs so that they're very familiar with it and the why behind it and where we're at, who we are. And again, only a year or 2, and if we have to update some of the numbers or the data, we will do that. But I think the gist of it is all there and very well done. And it's a lot. So that group is working on making it relevant and bite-sized enough so that we can do professional development on it so that folks can understand it. So that's the first year. And in a recent meeting I was at with the leadership team and Assistant Superintendent Clinch, Dr. Rabb, the conversation switched over to the new teaching rubrics, which we would have to negotiate as part of negotiations then because we're using the older one now. The new one does a much better job of having culturally responsive practices embedded in the entire document. It's not a one-off like we're doing now or this and that. So it really does that. So that conversation started to happen. So I think phase 2 of this in year 2, after we get the staff trained, is to start to look at that new rubric and how we're implementing that into our teaching and following the standards at the same time. So anything I missed on that, guys? No. So the last one is the identify achievement gaps and develop a systemic plan. Oh, wait, I did mention the WIN blocks. And WIN has been spelled W-I-N-N with 2 N's.
Yes. That's
The
right.
second N was always silent, so I just took it off. Smart brevity.
Oh, the
I made this,
the
What
now,
I need
what I
now.
need now.
exactly.
But it's
Being a
just
little
what I
facetious,
need.
but
Now
what
it's
I
kind of
need
what.
all the time. It's not just now,
That's
what I
right.
need. So we've kind of
That's fair.
switched, but there might be some
We'll
holdouts. So
achieve.
if you see
We'll love it.
the double N, the second N is silent still, but it still says WIN. But the what I need now is the second N, so I just kind of left that off because we've been kind of moving towards the what I need because it's just all the time. What do I need?
Yeah.
For everybody. And again, so we're focusing on the WIN blocks. I think everyone's excited about that. And again, we're going to use that collaborative approach where we start talking about what's really working well at each building, what might not be working well, what can we make consistent and uniform and successful at the buildings. That involves, it's complicated. Sometimes we share staff and scheduling and all that, but there's got to be a will there's a way because it's quite honestly to have that time embedded in the schedule can be very powerful if used correctly. And I guess my point now is we can do it better. There's some nice, really shining star spots, and there's some spots that we can improve on. So that's the exciting part, to kind of put under a spotlight, tie it back into the information that we have, and through all grades, trying to make that something unique and special that we only have. So I'll pause there for any questions.
I guess I thought we were doing that, but we weren't doing it across the schools. Is that what's missing?
We're doing it across the schools, but we're doing it slightly different in different
Okay.
places.
Okay,
Or better at some things better at certain places. Like
okay,
some folks might be really more heavy on tier 3 learning, on
I see.
supporting those students. And then whereas the kids that are accelerated might be getting something, but some other schools are doing a real good job with the accelerated folks.
okay.
So kind of like that. So we're doing it, but we really haven't dove in and saying, okay, let's start talking about what's really working well at your school that we can kind of borrow and use over here. So conceptually, yes, we have the same time, we have the same concept, but we haven't taken the time to really audit it, review it, and kind of share how we can do it better. Okay, so little timeline on, all right, so how are we going to know we're making progress? And so this is by year, and again, with built-in flexibility depending on feedback after year 1 from the committee, from others, from what we share, but this is the long-term look. And these should be tied into the previous slide. I named this artifacts, actions, and outcomes. So on June 25, we want to look at the data related to peer in relation to social emotional competencies. Dr. Prokowski's and the committee's feedback there to kind of give more of a bigger picture of it, tell a story to that. So that's noted. That will happen in June. And then the year after, in June of 26, we implement an effective MTSS process and examine the data related to student interventions and outcomes. That's ambitious. We're on our 2nd year, and this is for all schools. So we should have Jenkins and Gates on board this year. And then what we're doing, again, nice job from our team. And it's these guys to my left and the principals come up with the idea that the principals that aren't doing it, like at Hatherley and Cushing, they're going to the professional development. They're getting that so that they stay on target with it, and they're ready to go once we start implementing with their teachers. So I thought that was a good idea. And just to give an anecdotal example, I met with Principal Beatty the other day, talking about his goals and just the excitement he had for the MTSS and how much of a change he's already seen, just like philosophically how the school is operating. Instead of looking at the MCAS and 1 or 2 other things, it's a much bigger and wholesome look at kids, and it's kind of all on one page. And the example he gave me is, we've got the Lexile scores now, and we can look at the Lexile score and see this kid's numbers are off the chart reading. He's reading at a 12th grade level in 7th grade, but he's failing English. That's an extreme example. Well, what's happening? What's the disconnect? Is he bored? She bored? Or we're not. So I think that's just one example. The peer data mixed in with that for the social emotional piece. So they're looking at a lot of things now, and the process that we're learning about through our consultant group there from BC and other groups is the processes that we really weren't used to. And how do you look at all kids and not just, we were spending all our time on X amount of kids, and now we're going to expand that to include more kids. So we'll share more on that when we come back next. And then the June of 26 as well, improve the percentage of all students meeting or exceeding expectations in MCAS, math, ELA, and STE. This is extremely ambitious, but we went back and forth, and we've always been of the opinion, I never liked the goal. I don't think any of us have, so that was good. We had kind of some agreement here that, let's do 10%. So what if from the parents, I said, okay, what if my kid's not at 10%? That's not a goal. So there's a balance there. We're going to be realistic, but at the same time, why wouldn't we at Scituate have every kid in meeting or exceeding? That to us just seems normal. So we added the word all there. And again, it goes back to the strategic plan where the word all is. It's unique. And we didn't hit that. And that's going to force us to start looking at some of our groups that didn't hit it and why, ask those questions, and start connecting this back to all the other things we talked about this evening. The next one goes hand in hand with the MCAS and its growth. I think it's as important, to me, more important. I think growth is probably the best indicator, because when a child comes into your classroom, they've got the skills they have, and a teacher can do what they can do, but we want to make sure that every year kids are growing and not recessing. So that's a big one for us. So we want to improve student growth scores on both MCAS and our internal benchmarking because we believe that's an indicator of that. And again, for all students. So we'll be coming back and saying whether we succeeded or we didn't. It was good to piggyback this presentation on the last school committee presentation because we identified some groups that we weren't doing very well. We're very specific about that. So we've got a head start now on looking at that and moving ahead, while at the same time pushing everybody up. So I think those, the first time we've ever kind of specifically articulated MCAS here, but it is an important assessment that we spend a lot of time on. It is a good reflection. It is a good apples to apples comparison to other districts. And we want to do better for all of our kids. So that's that, and support our teachers in helping them do that. Sure.
And this is, so we looked at the MCAS scores. We had the presentation 2 weeks ago, October of this year. So why would we not look for the improved student growth, say like October of 2025?
We will.
No, I mean, like just as a timeline,
Yeah.
I was gonna actually.
Yeah.
You know,
To get everybody, we
I'm
wanted
sure
2
some
years.
people might be asking that.
Yeah, I think
but
it's a
we
great
haven't.
question, and I think that's what the formative evaluation is for. And we'll still have that information, and that'll be a check-in. And I think, so, great question. I think we want to achieve the goal by 26, but next year we'll certainly be giving a report out. If we achieve it early, that's great. If we don't, I think we just had a ways to go. With all the subgroups that we mentioned the other day, we felt that it would take 2 years to get all this accomplished. Doesn't mean we won't next year, but that would be very ambitious. We thought this was ambitious enough. So I also want, I think, Ms. Limbo, it's a great question for anybody listening out there. We certainly will report on this next year. It seems like we're always chasing it. It's always like last year's group. Now I think the exciting piece of that is we'll be sharing this information and saying, oh, we didn't reach our goal of all students. We're a little short here, but we made gains here. So at least we have something to point to in the future and not in the past. So that's part of it as well. But we will be reporting out in the formative the same way we did this year.
I would actually recommend that you might want to make a couple of adjustments on the timeline, just because for someone who's maybe looking at this and not hearing this conversation,
Correct.
it looks like all this is happening in June 2026, but so a lot of it is by June 2026. And I think adding something like that would be helpful so that people understand, which if they're just glancing at it, they might not get that at first. And I think, to Janice's point, I'm very happy to see this MCAS point in here. I mean, I think what we're saying is you're improving the percentage of all students. So we do want to see that next year and the year after. We want to see that all the years. Because if we think we're going to get to this place of every kid at meeting or exceeding expectations, then we're going to have to see an improvement every year. We can't go down.
Correct.
So I do think it's okay to call that up, like how you've
We
done
can
with
add
the
25
annual
and
report.
26
Annual
like we
report
did
of
some of the
AT
other
meetings,
ones.
it's the same, and I do think that is sort of just symbolically even important to say,
Thank
in
you.
my
Thank
opinion. Take a look.
Makes sense. It's an easy fix. And you're right. I think the whole goal of this too was to have people read this online and see it and be able to
Yeah.
understand it. That's what I said at the beginning, and they might not. They might say, oh, you're going to wait.
Yeah.
You're buying time, right, for 2 years.
You're not gonna tell us.
Yeah. Great point. And then the next one is the implement the priority recommendations from the equity audit. So again, we can do the same there because there'll be a mid-year report. We'll be getting things done by 25, so it's not just simply just a 26. So I can add that to that one as well. That whole slide, I think. I did it for the last one. So that annual report of the data team, this is what we were kind of saying there. All this will be in that 25, 26 data team. That might be multiple meetings. We'll have to kind of see. There's a lot of stuff, so we might kind of break that out since it's our first year, but that will be both years as well. So the next one is district improvement goals to improve the functionality and outcome of district-wide teams. So this is about the people that are doing all this work, and really thought that was important. So how will we do it? Create consistent processes, and expectations, and outcomes for school councils. Very specific here. Update and revise school improvement plans template to include a 2-year process. And this will be under focus indicator, family and community engagement and sharing responsibility, very appropriately named. So this was very clear feedback I got from the committee last year, but also in self-reflection, we realized it as a leadership team as well. And it kind of goes along the lines of raising our bar for ourselves, aligning things, consistency, doing things really well, and then kind of making school councils like very important, and, right? Like something you really want to be part of, something that moves the district forward. And what better way, because that's a very good representative group. And so it's not all top down. So school councils can give you that, like bottom up, all of us in this. They're also very good vetters of information and kind of like you are. They're like, this isn't going to fly, or I don't understand that. So this is a commitment we've made this year. We've already had a few meetings. I think you'll be happy to hear that they've gone very well. They've been very well received by our principals, starting with the great policy that the committee made to help us very specifically have a process in place to choose a school council. So our principals have done that. We've checked in. We've talked about it. Even with that, there's several ways to do that. So we talked amongst principals in our first PD, just we did the whole hour on just talking about choosing the school councils. Did we do it by the policy? Did anybody miss it? Oh, I did it this way, or I did it that way. Do we all agree we're going to do it this way? Then we talked a little bit about how many meetings do you have? It was pretty consistent that most people did 4. I know it's come back from the committee that you'd like to see monthly, so we may move to that, but that's how I always did as a principal. So it's been quarterly. So we're going to start with that just because that was what the comfort level was and what the principals did, and I thought it was rational based on what we have to report out on. So let me get into some of this other stuff. So just for those community members, there are certain things by law, you have to have a school council by law. Doesn't say you have to have a great one. So we want to be great, and we want, that's kind of, the oversight of your school, and in effect, the district, if all school councils are hitting on all cylinders. So the one thing that they are very involved in is the school improvement plan, which we just talked about tonight, drives the strategic plan if done right, which is aligned with the district plan and teacher plan goals. So that's what we were kind of missing. So that's going to be fixed. The school council, again, we're doing professional development with our principals. We're talking about, we talked also, and my colleagues here did a real good job, and Dr. Rad took this piece. So we're kind of team tackling it, and about the open meeting laws. And so again, we want this to be we want this to be note takers, agendas, posted, public comment if you want to go. So we really want people to be, we want the community to be able to say, I have a voice. And we want the school committee to be able to say to us, or the community members, hey, if you got a problem with this, go to your school council meeting and have public comment, or run for the position on school council. So we want to really make that the go-to place for all things important to that school and all things in there. We talked about what are the agenda items that are important, and certainly budgets coming up, very important one. School committee is apprised, and in Dr. Rab's very excellent layman's terms about what complexities of the budget mean. And so we want the community, we want our principals to be able to articulate that. So for example, when we talked about their first meeting, we want them to bring up the budget situation so the community knows that it's going to be a little tight this year, but this is why. So Dr. Rab came up with some talking points. So we are consistent, and the principals understood it, and we're able to recite it back to us. Okay, this is what makes sense. And so they're able and confident to go into their school councils and share the same message we're sharing with you and with everyone else. So I think that's one good example, concrete example of something we're already improving on. The next set of meetings are going to be on, so we did that, we did how to There's going to be some more PD for our principals who have asked for it on running a public meeting. We use the template of the school committee agendas to show them and go through what these things mean, new business, old business, how does public comment work, things like that. So that was kind of fun. And again, Dr. Rapp is going to take that on. Not everybody, those two words aren't often said in that, but we had fun. And they were sponges, they liked it, they want to do good. They want this to be very professional. And they want it to be, and the turnouts, by the way, for the school councils, some of them are at record highs of people being involved. So that's really good. Then the other big piece of this is updates. We think a very well-run school council meeting should have the principal updating the school council on things that are happening in the school, kind of like what we talked about. Because how we envision this and how I've seen it work on very good ones, is the people that are in that committee, which is a good number of them, then go out into the community and your advocates. They, they'll be transparent. This is what they're in the know. So we want to make sure that there's a kind of a state of the school at each of these meetings. This is the good, bad, and the ugly. This is what we need help of, and this is what we want you to know, so that so more people are informed about what's happening. We just had a meeting in executive session on MEDCO. MEDCO can be a talking point at those meetings. We could bring guests in. And we talked about that too. If you want to have Markavius come in as a MEDCO director and talk at one of your meetings about that topic. Smart idea, good idea. So those are some of the things we're talking about, and running really efficient, good meetings, productive meetings, and then getting feedback. There'll be an agenda item like there is here, future agenda items, so that folks at the meeting will have input into what is talked about and what is covered in the meetings. And lastly, I'll finish with the revised and consistent school improvement plan. Ours wasn't great. Again, we came up with it. There are no excuses. We're going to have a better one. And so we're looking at different templates now, different models. That'll be our next series of professional development with our principals. So you'll be seeing that. And even something as simple that some districts don't have that we want to add is the last slide you'll see tonight is how does it connect to the strategic plan? So we're going to add something like that as an example, so that we're always talking about that and keeping that focused. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to the principals coming and presenting them this year, and that you'll be impressed, and that they're going to be also individualized, so that it won't be just one elementary one. Each elementary is different. There'll be some consistent things probably in all of those, but we want that to also be a unique opportunity for each school to kind of share its strengths and areas of growth in certain things. So that's kind of where we're at with that.
Quick question on that. Sure. So here we go. I don't know if this is coming through. There we go. It wasn't totally on. Okay, so my question is that, so as you're working on bringing the school councils up to proper formation or execution, I guess, with open meeting laws and aligned agendas and everything, they're also working on school improvement plan. So it's kind of happening simultaneously then. So like these school councils are meeting, forming meeting, reviewing budgets, but then principals are also doing the PD to make sure that they're doing, so this is all right.
Yes. The good news is we have school improvement plans in place. It's going to be a transition to a new template. Some of the content will stay the same. Some of it will change. I think that was the other part we talked about, maybe extending it. We have a 2-year, we had 1 year, which was tough. So to have something to get started with, we're already working on that one. And then with the new group and with some of the new template, kind of get them a little more into detail and to maybe change it with our new goals as we go, but keeping some of the concrete stuff together. Like we already knew, for example, that we were going to focus on math this year. Yeah. So that should be in every school improvement plan that their grade levels. Benchmarking has been there in the past. So we might add that that there'll be a mid-year data team established, and we'll meet and share back. So some of those new things in this will be added. Some things taken away that might have been, that we don't think are important anymore. But there's still some core things that are on all of them that work is ongoing already.
Yeah. Okay.
Good question. Okay. Next one is strengthen communication to build support and collaboration among school, community, and town partnerships. I always believe that communication should be some type, it's embedded somewhere in your goals. So on the right, you look at the focus indicators there, family and community engagement, getting our families and our community involved in the education of our kids, and with sharing responsibility. Then management operations, environment, human resources management, and development. So we covered a lot in this one. It's kind of two goals in one here. I'll explain in a minute. So Cushing Hatherley new building project is ongoing, and as you know, it's a lot of work. It's fun work now. What's the school look like? And it's really interesting topics, but it's a lot. So we're going to continue that, bring that to fruition, and open that thing up in the fall of 2027 as a state-of-the-art, beautiful school. So in doing that, there's some things that need to be done involving the community. We want to establish a system to collect feedback from families, even better than we did before on the first round of getting the vote yes. And we want to do that primarily on the enrollment plan for the opening of the new school. And you notice I did say redistricting for a few reasons. I think it's got a really bad association with the word. I've never heard anyone, myself, I was guilty of saying redistricting, and it's horrifying. But when we looked at it, it's more than redistricting, because we've got two other elementary schools. So it's an enrollment situation. It involves enrollment. It involves class size conversation. For example, we want to fit more kiddos in than the existing two schools. Philosophically, is the committee open, or is the community open to expanding class sizes a little bit to get everybody in for those first couple of years, and then weaning it down? It's one option. So there's that kind of feedback that needs to be talked about, those decisions to be made. So it's more of an enrollment thing. It's also a busing thing, as you know. Really, a lot of that goes around busing. And what I'd also like to incorporate in here is the talk about and get feedback from communities, our community and our parents and families on what makes the best school. What makes great schools. So I want these meetings to be more than just about the enrollment and involve more people. Because remember, we talked about that. We want the practices, if at all possible, that we implement in the new school to be happening in Jenkins and Wampatuck. Those instructional practices. So if we come up with a cool furniture idea in the library media area that gets kids excited about literacy more, let's go do that at the other schools if replicable. So you don't necessarily have to have a brand new school to bring some of these ideas in, but we've been talking a little bit about the anxious parent and those types of things. Let's hear from those parents. What are they anxious about? What are they excited about? So I want to hear some dreams and hopes of what this new school could be when it's open, besides the physical structure of it, what they'd like to see education look like with this beautiful place. So I think we can do both in those meetings, because if you start just talking about redistricting, it really narrows what you can talk about, and a lot of the parents that might not be that involved in the other schools might not come. If you start talking about education in general, what does a great school look like, I think you might get all of our elementary parents, and maybe our middle school and high school parents coming in and contributing to that conversation. So that's that. It's a very important one. Then welcoming, encouraging, and providing regular opportunities and resources for all families to be active parents in district and school communities. So that kind of ties into that one as well. That one also ties in, I talked a little bit about surveying families about some of the things we're curious about, like the start of school, does it start earlier or later, those types of things. Bring back some surveys. I think we were saturated with surveying during COVID. We're taking a little break from it. We're ready now to kind of start doing that again and asking our community what they think about certain things. And next one is review our current communication practices to make improvements to ensure that we're meeting the needs of all families. So again, this would be kind of a internal audit, getting feedback from the community. We're proud to report that we have a full technology team that's kind of ready to oversee this and to help with the communications. That's going to be one of their goals, a technology plan and a communications plan. Take that off the plate of kind of central office and the principals and put it in the hands of a communications team. And so I'm excited to share where we go with that, get the information back, and then make our communication so that it's useful, it's important, and that it's two-way, and that people feel like they have a voice, but they're also being heard, but they're also being told the story of our district. So that's the goal, is that we get this information, because I often hear, we share great things here, but ever since Mr. Lynch came, our ratings have gone up a little bit, but they're still not where they need to be. Not everybody's watching these meetings, so we need to get the word out. So that's part of the plan too. And the last one's the fun one, is I know the kids mentioned the podcast.
Yeah.
No one ruined a surprise, but the podcast is coming, and just getting students more involved in the communications. I think we all like that survey stuff, hearing what the kids have to say. It's fascinating, it's real, it's honest.
It's important, yeah.
So that, I think getting them more involved and seeing how they want to be communicated with, what they want to hear about, what they want to share. So that's a caveat in that one. So how do we know progress is being made on these two kind of sub goals? Did a little bit more of 24 to 26 in this one. Outline a process to collaborate and gather input from stakeholders, community, relative to our enrollment plan and for opening the new Cushing Hadley School. Because keep in mind, there's other things we have to resolve with that. The naming of the school is the other one we want to communicate about, and there's a bunch of other juicy stuff, the budget, all that.
Thought we were going to Burkhead.
Burkhead Memorial.
Posthumously. And I feel great right now, so I'm going to be around a while. I do not deserve that honor, but I'm very excited to go through that process to see what we come up with. And that will be a school committee decision, so I will happily hand it off to you. But maybe we can get the kids involved in a contest or something like that, come up with something cool. And I just want to give one quick example, if I can, just to the people listening, like, that may be hung up on, or is it going to be Cushing or Hadley or a combination of the two? It doesn't have to be those, but we don't have to lose our history in either of those buildings. When I was the first principal at Monomoy Regional High School, and they brought Harwich and Chatham together, they called it Monomoy. They had a contest, the kids name it. That's the island. The best way I describe it now is where pretty much all the sharks are. Shark Week, Monomoy is the place to go.
Now we know
So
it.
it's a real nice beach, but a lot of seals, a lot of sharks. Beautiful. So the kids came up with that. They came up with the school mascot.
Awesome.
So it was really nicely done. Way to do it. But right when you walked in the building on Main Street, they call it the big opening, and beautiful, like ours will have. They had four artists from Harwich and 4 artists from Chatham, designed a big map, if you will, of the towns in the history. And they had of Cushing, just a picture of Harwich High School in Chatham, Cushing and Hadley, and some of the things. That's just one idea, one example, but I just want people to know, if you do go that route, decide to change names completely, that we don't lose the history of each of the schools and all the important things that happen there. So there's always a way to do that. Then, no comment. I don't want to influence the name at all. So the next one is how do we do this? There'll be community meetings soon, probably in November they'll start, surveys, and I put the vision and the development of the enrollment plan. So twofold, like I spoke about. The Thursday Thoughts, by popular demand, at least 3 people have asked for it. So it's coming back hopefully the end of this month, maybe it'll be a Halloween treat.
Very popular.
We're working on that now, and that'll be new. So I'm open to also to our community members on feedback on what that looks like, so that can evolve and change. So that'll be out soon, monthly. Then the regularly provide updates on the status and design of the project, as well as progress decisions regarding the enrollment plan. Again, transparency, getting people involved. It's not always going to be what people want to hear, but I think people appreciate regular updates. I think that will do a good job of that. And that'll be part of our communications plan, as well as our updating our website as needed. And then the final plan. What's it going to look like? I get that a year in advance. That's June 26th. We could even make that earlier. That's has to be done by then. The goal in these, just so you know, is the later the better, because of demographic change, just children being born,
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff within the years, but, we'll get on it soon and we'll have plenty of information to base the decisions on.
Yeah, I was gonna say that it seems kind of aggressive. Having the enrollment plan by June 2026.
Yeah.
The school's opening a year later.
I think you need it by then.
Direction.
Yeah.
I think you need it
I
by
think you
then.
need it
Oh, you do?
before then. I mean, by then, but
Yeah.
with what you just said.
It would allow for the bus routes for people, I think people need to know.
They're all already
Yeah.
born now. We hit that point where all the children have been born, that will go there now.
That's true. I think what I've seen in other districts, sometimes you get jockeying for.
Yeah.
Living in that, once you find out where that zone is, there might be more. Those houses might become
No new growth.
basements, attics. But when you build it, they will come, and that's been what we saw, that enrollment usually bumps up a bit in new schools. But we'll be prepared for that as well.
Would you want the naming component in the similar timeline, sort of have all around the same time? Just so we know.
I think ideally a year in advance, if we have it named and we have the routes already, we can really focus on.
Community.
Because at our last meeting, we had talked about, they said the hardest time, which surprised me a little bit, not completely. I thought the hardest time would be
I
the
know, this is
instruction
new
and
information.
navigating that. They said kind of like the opening.
Yeah.
Like the first September, the first days of
Yeah.
months of school, because the other building is still there. That demolition starts, finishes up, kind of that's into November, so you've got
Yeah,
a restricted
yeah, your picture.
area to get people in and out.
I feel like the
Not like-
whole-
So now that we're planning for this nice big bus loop, it's not always gonna be that big initially. So there's a lot, that's why those community meetings are gonna be helpful. Butters meetings, we'll continue those, meeting with the butters, getting their input, their feedback. We'll be busy.
Yeah.
The other group of people who's not really accounted for here, because I know the theme is community, but is just teachers and staffing. So
Yeah,
I don't know if that belongs here or if that's accounted for other places, but I know that's also something that people are, understandably thinking about and agreeing.
I can explicitly put that, I put down the community with staff. And what, so for example, updates at staff meetings, staff memos, principals have been doing that now, we can certainly do that. One thing that we did with the example I gave about Howard and Chapman that worked extremely well, and I ran it by the principals and I thought it was a good idea, was to have a larger, we call it a culture committee, you can call it whatever you want, representative staff from each of the schools to start meeting, start talking about this is how, because every school is very different. Every culture is different, right? And I learned at the Harbor when we did that culture thing, but even like field trip forms were different at the time. Everything was so different. They were rivals. So that was the hardest part for me as a principal. Yes, there were two different districts. Right, that's the difference. So we have a lot of uniform stuff. But I think
Right.
to be respectful, it's kind of, well, we like this tradition very much. We like this one. Can we do them both? So getting those people together, having some joint staff meetings, in that final year, a whole year in advance to start doing that kind of stuff. So I'll add that to here, Ms. Fenwick, because I think it's a good idea. And it is separate than these other meetings. So it's a good point. We will definitely have a specific plan to do that, to kind of get folks ready mentally and strategically to come into the new school as best we can.
Yeah, I mean, are you thinking about a calendar of sorts almost, like to
Yes.
plot that out? So, yeah, okay.
Yeah, kind of backwards design, work from the end, like, okay, we're ready to move in,
With
because
a little
even
bit,
the moving
yeah.
is
Right,
very,
it's a very
big deal.
extremely complicated.
very emotional.
I was really overwhelmed at the last meeting,
Yeah.
actually, with all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's stuff
I
you don't
didn't-
necessarily think of, right? Just
Didn't think of
packing.
it at all. In my brain, September
Yes.
2nd was this glimmering, like
Yes.
Oz, sparkling
Grass.
grass, and it's not quite,
No.
not quite yet, but obviously
But if we
that's-
do a really good job, the community and the kids
Yes.
will only see
We'll all
that.
see,
They'll
yes,
see the
yeah,
awesome new classrooms, great teachers,
Oh, yeah.
right,
beautiful new fields and all that cool stuff.
yeah. I think that's
We'll
on
try to
us
Make the
to
sausage as best we can behind the scenes,
make sure that,
and get it.
agreed.
I will add that.
Yeah, definitely the staff piece, I think,
Yep.
is really important.
Okay. All right, professional practice goal. last one. Again, this is kind of my growth as a leader in, I think something I'm passionate about is developing leaders. So this one is a succession plan, for lack of a better word. How do we continue to create leaders? The more leaders you have, obviously, the better you are in anything, I think. Next generation of teacher leaders, specifically in this case, and continue to improve the district culture and collaborative relationships established. I think everyone has heard there's a national shortage of educators, paraprofessionals, of all staff, bus drivers, custodians, cafeteria workers, you name it. We've been more fortunate than others that I've spoken to, but we're still, not immune to it. And it's just an opportunity to make this the place people want to be. It's already like that for a lot of people I talk to. It was for me, certainly. I wanted to be here. I love when especially when I meet those alum that went to elementary school here and they're always the dream to come back and teach, and I get to hire them. That's great. But what are we doing that no one else is doing? We're always kind of talking about that. And the one void we saw that there was coaching for administrators and models for that, but there weren't really any of that we could find for teachers. And DESE didn't have anything necessarily. So we want to start that, and we want to continue the one that we've added that for administrators as well. So I think it starts in, part of this goal starts in negotiations. Without playing our hand, obviously, there's things you can have in negotiations that make your district more enticing than others. We were ahead of the curve in the 12-week leave. I think a lot of districts are fighting for that now. There were 8 weeks, they're paying for leave. We have 12 weeks. You have to use some sick days and some ways to do that, but we support our teachers in that. They were very happy with that. That fourth personal day that I don't know if everybody knows about the conversation behind that, but it was honesty that we had at the table, because it was interest-based bargaining, in which it's a very unique way to negotiate, and not everyone does, where you are trained in a process, very specific process, very structured. But for example, when you sit, part of the expectation is that you don't all sit on one side, and the other teachers sit on that side, and the administrators, the cafeteria. You mix up seats, you have dinner together, you have lunch together. It really makes a difference. It's a really good strategy, worked well for us. We want to continue it. But that's an example, in that fourth personal day, in this example, it was for mental health. We had talked about the stress levels of teachers, and, in the communities, not in our community, but nationally, education has always gotten bashed. As far as I can remember, since 84, right? And teachers had COVID. And so, we said, okay, that extra day, and they just appreciated that we can have that extra day for that. Those are a couple examples, but I think during negotiations, if you go in there with the mindset and the philosophy of doing what's best for our teachers, and that we can afford, and that's, and it's affordable, and it's that the management on our side can also move the district forward. We can come in, and I think interest-based bargaining does that for us. That's why I put it there. And we have 6 unions to negotiate, remember. So some goodwill can be made during those negotiations. The next one is piloted coaching program for teachers. We have that underway right now. We started real small with 3 teachers. They happen to be our district leaders for our union leadership. They volunteered. They're in very different places as far as their growth. So we thought that would be a good place to start small. They're going to give us feedback. We'll share that with the committee. And then the goal is to expand that to include ultimately all of our teachers that want to take part of it, but start slow and then grow, get feedback on that. And kind of my thought initially is, can we build a program where there's some sort of train the trainers or coach the coaches, where we can teach those leaders to then go. And I also want to preface this by saying, this isn't just for leaders that want to be administrators. They're already leaders. We've got so many great leaders in our district, teachers. We just wanted to kind of solidify that and make that real, that we appreciate that, and that we have growth opportunities for you outside of the general PD. And there's all ways you can do this. You can incorporate this in professional development. You could, get negotiated in and have incentives for teachers to go this path. So we're at the very beginning, so I'd like the committee, I think we're all very strong in this area, and building leaders, for your feedback on this as we go through it. And so that's one part of this, building our staff, making it a place where people want to be. The other one is recognition of our staff. I think one of the simplest, most profound things you could do, more important than money, I think, is to recognize and appreciate people. And it's simple but not easy. And so what we've wanted to do this year is kind of like along the Sailor Shuttle, is to make that more official and to have teachers share, not just teachers, entire staff, it's open to everyone, share with me stories that I can tell through the Thursday thoughts. Hopefully if we get enough, we can make a little book at the end of the year and share with our staff what they have. And that's part A. Part B is that to kick off the new school year, and I kind of joked about this in my opening day, is I used to dread as a teacher and as an administrator going and watching on my first day of school, where I was excited to see my colleagues and get the room set up and all this, that we go through 60 slides of superintendent's goals for the year and all that. There's a time and a place for that, certainly. But an hour and a half of that was not productive when people's heads aren't really there. So we thought that would be a day where we would celebrate our staff and talk about years of service, which we do currently, which has gone over very well. And then we're going to institute a recognition program that will start in the spring for nominations and stories about teachers and staff. And then kick off every new year with awarding those folks, and it's a surprise in how we're going to do that. But the majority of that first day will be to celebrate those, tell their story, tell why they were nominated, what great things they're doing. And it's my honest belief that that will be contagious and spread through that. But we talk about this a lot, sharing our stories, but I get a lot of it as a superintendent. I get emails a lot of time. I share some of them with the school committee, but I think our community needs to hear that for those that feel comfortable allowing them to be told of it, of course. So getting feedback from our staff, it's gone over pretty well. And so the first one will be next year, and we'll invite all of the community to that. I think that's just another step in just being unique and being a place where people are appreciated and celebrated, and the more the merrier. And then the next one is participate in the MSA mentor program, which we've started already. This is for any new principal or assistant principal. Again, the job gets lonely as you work up to the pinnacle, and there's less of you. And so the Mass Association of Administrators, the MSAA, started this just 2 years ago. So even for principals and assistant principals and building leaders, this is really new. So we've started that. Feedback from our principals and assistant principals that have taken it has been overwhelmingly positive, supported. So we're going to continue that, continue it for central office, and just keep that thing going, because I just think it's a great thing. And expand our connection and access to a great diverse pool of candidates. I think attracting all candidates there. This is where you see a little overlap with their equity audit. So we'll have some methods on how we're attracting diverse pool of candidates, how we're diversifying our pool of interview committees, who's on those, what questions we ask, how we represented ourselves. One of the things we're doing with our new staff that we had done in the past is kind of giving them a 101 of MEDCO and a 101 of kind of lit, and what that is. Not every school does that, every district does that, but that's, again, it's in its new stages and something we want to expand on as we educate the whole staff. And that's the last one, including understanding of MEDCO for newly hired staff. Markavius and his team, come up with this, like a MEDCO 101, because even as I came here as a superintendent, I was familiar with what MEDCO was, but was never in a MEDCO district. So I think it's important for, it teaches a little bit of the history, teaches about what we're all about here, some new things we're doing. So new staff, it will be part of the new staff orientation when they come in and learn a little bit about that so that they're up to speed. Those are some examples, I think. And the timelines should have, honestly, thank you. So the recognition ceremony can kick off as early as fall next year. The Inspiration Awards celebrate all our staff. In June of next year, complete the pilot with survey data, a summary from the coaches, the feedback from teachers on these pilots that we're doing. So you'll have that at my formative evaluation, so that will allow me to get feedback and then some of the ideas from that feedback on how we can expand the program to include more staff. And then June of 25, the end of this year, successful conclusion to negotiation of our collective bargaining agreements with some good news. And I want to take some things out of those negotiations to celebrate that make us unique from other districts, that will attract staff. Maybe make a flyer or something from that we can give out to people that apply here that show what makes us the best place to be. Then on June 25, complete a prescribed growth document for those participating in the mentor program, which what that means is I've asked each of those folks participating in the mentor program to provide me with kind of a narrative on how they've grown without giving away, the what's the word?
Personal detail.
Yeah, the personal things that they're able to share with their coach that are very private, not that, more of a narrative on their growth throughout the process, what they learned from it, and then recommendations on moving forward. So that'll be really good feedback to show all of you and to learn from. And then from that, by the end of June, have a real pathways for teachers into this leadership program, have it really hashed out and done. Pilots are over. This is what we're about. This is what makes us unique. This is our path for leaders, teacher leaders to go, and then maybe even expand that to the rest of our staff. So.
Can you say more about the reason for having newly hired staff? Giving them, you named Medco specifically, and so I'm just curious, given all of our conversations around all the different ways that we have diversity, like what's the...
Well, Medco and Lit.
Right.
Yeah. So Lit will encompass all our equity things that we're doing now, and then the Medco is new because we found that was a gap in when teachers were coming into the school district. I can backtrack and say we're also doing the same thing for our current staff, so they get it. So what our new staff getting, that is a unique program that we have here. Those are two. So that's where we're starting. Again, first year, so it's very new.
So like just awareness?
Yes.
Starting at awareness.
Awareness. Yeah. That we do have this program.
Yeah. I'm just trying to figure out what the goal of that piece is. If it's so awareness. No, I'm not questioning the value of that. I'm just trying to understand.
Why? Yeah.
No, not at all. And I guess the other question I had was for the reflection that you're going to have folks do, or the growth. What's prescribed growth document? Who's writing that?
The people getting coached, getting mentored.
Oh, so I'm just wondering, is someone,
prescribed
Ryan, or
mean?
someone giving them like good prompts, or are they just sort of like, is it going to be like whatever you want to share, or are you going to have prompts that you're hoping to sort of?
That's why I'm going to try to come up
That's
with
what I'm
prompts with the coaches.
Okay.
I'm going to work with the coaches
Okay,
to come up with prompts because
got it.
the MSA doesn't have a document.
That's what I was wondering.
You have to create our own.
Okay.
So, but they agreed also with our consultant, agreed to help me come up with some prompts to
Got
get
it.
them to write a narrative. And each of the participants has agreed to do that.
Yeah, there's tons of templates too
Oh,
that
good.
you can
Okay.
get from different, so many.
Okay.
Yeah,
So right now we don't have anything. So that's
Yeah.
what that meant. We'd have to come up with something.
that you could start with,
Right.
just make it your
Correct.
own. Okay.
Bill, I don't know if I missed, but did you go over how you would pick the coach? Who would be the coach?
Yeah, right now we're going through a consultant this first year. And the teacher happens to be one they had that they picked, but it was a teacher of the year. And they asked if we wanted multiples. We went with the same teacher because there's 3 or all of them, so they get consistency. And then also in speaking with the teacher leaders, they wanted some group, like one group, just to kind of get together to share what the concept of this was. But interesting that they all wanted individual coaching. Because they were on very different paths to where they wanted to go. So we're going to start with that. That was kind of why I brought up in the future, because if you start hiring more and more coaches, it gets expensive. So maybe we want to, and the coaching team that is helping us knows this, that part of my expectation of them was, I need help and feedback on how we can grow this with our people from within.
Yeah.
So that's part of the plan, right? Eventually, I see a day where our teacher leaders can run these with maybe some support from outside.
For the to start
Yeah,
outside.
Yeah. because if you think about it right now, we have mentoring for our teachers in their first 3 years. State helps with that, but after that, we don't. But people still want to learn and grow and be coached. And man, I found that really helpful when I was a new superintendent. And I hadn't been coached 20 years. And finally, since I was a new teacher, then I got this, and just the networking, you don't know what you don't know, hearing from someone that's done the job, and it was really, really something.
Yeah, I was gonna ask if the MSAA program is similar to what you did.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. There's a curriculum they have, there's meetings with groups, then individual coaching, similar model.
Okay, no, because I know how much you showed your appreciation for
Yes.
that.
And again, our principals and assistant principals have taken it in-house, have all shared the same, very, very positive.
I just wanted to say something about the teacher recognition and the coaching program. First of all, I'm very excited. This is an area of passion of
It is.
mine. But having advised a number of schools and districts on similar topics, I will just give you one little golden nugget of advice, which is just to include as much teacher input and feedback as you're designing those as possible. That is the key
Right.
to getting those things to be what teachers actually want them to be. So you're not having people like, oh, this recognition thing, I'm kind of rolling my eyes, I feel self-conscious. I think the more you can ask teachers, hey, what do you think about this? What do you want? I think that's how you really get to the exact right thing. It's hard to pull off, but I do feel like that's the one ingredient that always helps.
I think that's excellent advice, and I will certainly do that. I think they're full not to. Yes. I've already been soliciting feedback, and you know what? It's so true, because I'm in a very different bubble, and the stuff I get, I'm like, oh wow, and some of the ideas I have, they even like.
Yeah.
So it's kind of that'll be a collaboration for sure.
Yes.
This will not be a top down. That would be make this big deal over this, and it's the worst thing that could happen is people aren't excited for it. I want people to come through that door, so you got to ask the people that are coming through the door. What will get you excited to come through that door and be appreciated? So, thank you. So this last, I'm a big plan on the page guy, like short, sweet, and brevity, but I also wanted this to be kind of like, all right, I'm not going to read this whole thing, but I'll read this, like for our community members or somebody, or even if you just need a refresher. So this could be tweaked and changed, and even after tonight, it will be updated and as we go. But on the left column, it says summary, but those are the goals on the left. And then I just went across and shared some things that hopefully kind of summarize what I spoke about tonight. So I wanted to share the problems, like what problems are you trying to solve here? So the first one on our rigorous curriculum and high quality instruction, we want our performance and metrics on our MCAS, our SAT, and AP exams. We want to do better for all of our kids. That's simple. And we know we can. So I think that's the simple rationale there. We want, and in part, that's part of it, but also with higher quality instruction and support for our staff, and consistent curriculum and benchmarking and paying attention to that. I think our kids will come out of here being more successful in life as well. Next one is how will we achieve this goal and impact student learning? Outcomes will improve. Key metrics, again, this is social, emotional, and academic. There could be more, certainly. Again, these are just brief examples. And then the column I like here is we're always going to tie it back to the strategic plan, and there could be more bullets added in here. And I kept it pretty simple, just like a concept. And anytime people can give me feedback on this chart, especially, like, oh, maybe you could add the bullet here, and I got some ideas tonight that I talked about that I can add as well.
Your goals have come a long way, Bill.
And I thank you for that.
I'm dead serious.
Yeah.
I think about 3 years ago when I first started on the committee, and we went back and forth. Do you remember that night?
Oh, I think it was year 1, 2. I think it was year 1, 2, and 3.
What are you measuring
You're being-
what are you
No one
measuring?
remembers that.
Yep.
And this is like, I mean, wow, that's so much growth in the way you present it.
Thank you. I am proud of it, but I do don't take sole credit because it was, like I said, I finally realized I need to listen to more people, like you all said. But all of you have been, that's why I sit so close to you, Dr. Kowski. So I can't even kick you now when you talk. But first 3 years, my goals weren't great. They're so much better. And you know what? I'm so much more excited about it because it's so much clearer to me now.
Luckily, Maria likes to read manuals, so she let us know that we could make 2 year. So it really is a team effort.
Yep. And you've all been helpful, and I think, you know, I'm excited about it.
Yeah, it's
I'm not gonna go through the rest of this because people can read it, but
Yeah.
it's been a group doctorate and still be improved, and the real exciting part is coming back for the formative and sharing all the
Yeah.
things we've accomplished, and having the 2 years to do it's really been exciting too, because it's allowed us to stretch some of our goals and not be so pressed for like, oh, we're getting this done in 5 months. So that's been a cool thing as well.
I mean, I appreciate that you're also, I mean, we'll just say it, like you are putting yourself on the hot seat for some of these things, like the MCAS.
Yeah.
A lot of that's out of your control, but we should be monitoring it really carefully
Yeah.
with the benchmarks, internal benchmarks. So I think it's good that it's on there.
It's gotten me to be more, to roll my sleeves up more, and to
Yeah.
get into the schools, more into the classrooms, the meetings, you know,
Yeah.
now I have to. So that was my reason for
Yeah, I think it's good.
him. Thank you.
We asked our questions.
Yes,
Oh,
yeah,
good.
thank you, thank you.
All right, thank you.
And in fact, we will turn it back over to you again for METCO Student Success Liaison position. Job description.
Yeah, so this is a new position in MEDCO program titled the MEDCO Student Success Liaison. This is a non-union position because it's hours a little bit flexible, but also it's non-direct teaching position as well. I did share this job description with our STA membership ahead of time, as is our new process, which again has been very amicable to do that. So it should come as no surprise. And we talked about it in the executive session. I think this is a much needed position. It can get more hands on deck for our kids, our Boston resident students, and something that I think the last 3 directors have mentioned to me. And I think we finally have gotten around to have some very good role clarity in all the positions now. And this is something that can be supported, and we'll have a MECO team. I really think we can this goes a long way into kind of completing that team, getting our kids what they need, kind of, you know, the win concept, you know, what do they need, and this will help us achieve that. So I recommend that the committee approve this position, and it just, so the committee knows this is funded by the MEDCO grant and not the operating budget.
Fantastic. All right, any questions about this position or vote? We'll take.
I got it.
Got
I
it.
got you, Janice. Yes, I'll make a motion to approve the non-union personnel METCO student success liaison job description.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Fantastic. All right. Approval of minutes from October 7th. She was not here. Ms. Fenwick.
Back to you.
Back to you. You thought you were taking the
Regular
roll.
Nobody has any.
I don't.
I make a motion that the school committee vote to approve the October 7th, 2024 minutes as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstain. Okay, fabulous. Any warrants? Here,
No, we're
nothing
good.
was in the, okay. And correspondences or any other business that anyone wants to bring up, or future agenda items?
Just want to bring up one thing,
Yes.
which is just, I remember we talked about maybe someone centrally reaching out to the different committees with
Peter did.
Peter
the
first.
liaise,
Yeah.
okay.
He did reach out.
He did, okay.
Yeah, he
Yes, but
Yeah.
I don't know if he's received back
Okay.
everything he was looking for, but I can
He
check in with him.
He definitely
Okay.
has, because I
Yeah.
received Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I can actually, because one of I'm on advisory, and, they actually asked, they came up for their liaison positions.
Oh,
So like, they don't know
Sure.
either, they were like, what do
Yeah.
they do?
They don't know.
So they were asking the
That makes
same
me feel
questions.
better.
Okay.
So,
Nobody knows.
Patrice Metro, I think it is our liaison.
Okay.
So, she said, well, do I have to go to every meeting? And I said, well, no, you could look at the agenda, and if there's something that advisory should be here for, then you can. They were happy with that.
Okay, so for planning board, not capital planning, but
Yeah.
planning board. It's like they're discussing like
Things.
just.
I would just look at the agenda.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would too.
I mean,
If you
I would
notice
not go
something
to
that you
every-
feel
It's
like
probably
could be relevant.
It'd be very entertaining anyway.
Yeah.
I have enough
If you're
entertainment, I think, but okay.
Okay, capital planning is.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's it.
I guess my only future agenda item touches on something Bill brought up just slightly, but just budget-wise, knowing that we could potentially be in, or are in a tighter belted year. The sooner the better we discuss what you all are hearing in your meetings would be fantastic.
Understood.
Yeah.
We'll start
That's
on
all
what
I'm
we can.
hearing.
Yeah, right.
Tight.
Okay, perfect. Okay. Take a motion to adjourn then if everyone is all set. She's taking the middle.
We don't know, Peter.
Motion to adjourn at 7:46.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.